the entire social justice movement, which is headed up largely by women. They're some of the biggest bullies in society nowadays. For people who are
You hear that? Women be bullying. We got that part. Ladies, why you always bullying? You know? And you're teaching us men to bully too. We're taking this feminine trait and then we're suddenly becoming slightly more feminine, which is unusual because it's not supposed to happen in the masculine paradigm, but yet I can't help myself online, and now I find myself suddenly inhibiting and exhibiting, and oh my, it's a confusing world out there. This internet, I tell you. All right, now we need to learn about manly men, real men, strapping men. Greased up men, greased up for the occasion, rippled, just shining in the light, because apparently there's an attack on masculinity. Yes, it's true. Masculinity is under attack. It's been a hard time for masculinity, really. You know, those of us who enjoy the masculine men. Now it's, men in dresses, non-binary individuals trying to titillate us with their new forms of what masculinity could be. It's an unusual time, all right? It's a confusing time for all of us. And apparently for Benedict Cumberbatch as well.
in here, we've spoken quite a bit about femininity on this channel, so today I thought we would mix things up and talk about masculinity, or more specifically, the attack on masculinity, because if you're actually like looking for advice on how to become masculine, I'm probably not the best person for that. And I do just want to preface everything I'm about to say with the lamentation that in this day and age, it's pretty much impossible to compliment or praise something without people out there taking it as a criticism of something else. For example, any video that I do that speaks positively about marriage and families, there are all these people upset in the comments about how I supposedly hate single people or people who don't have children. No.
I just really feel like you hate single people and people who don't have children. Just a feeling. And parlay.
Oh, me saying marriage is good, families are good is not the same as me saying I hate single people, die you childless scum. Like, those are two separate thoughts and I've only articulated one of them. And the reason why I mentioned that is because I find this lack of comprehension is especially apparent anytime I say positive things about men or masculinity. There are people out there who take it as a slight against women and against femininity, and it's like, no, I have so many different videos out there praising femininity, asking for more femininity in society. If you want to check those out, be my guest. But for now, guess what? We are talking about masculinity and why it is a good thing, and if that offends you, well then, I've done my part at this point to try to placate you. It's just too bad if you're still upset at this point. But anyway, Benedict Cumberbatch is a very popular actor who you've probably heard of. He is very talented if you ask me, but he is one of those actors who, it's strange. He's almost seen as like a sex symbol, even though he kind of looks like a frog in my opinion. But anyway, he has been in the headlines recently.
Have you seen those kind of articles? The ones that's like things that Benedict Cumberbatch looks like. One of them was like a fresh baked loaf of bread. And I was like, that one's kind of nice. I like that one. The more derogatory ones are like, a foot or stuff like that. But I think what's cool about Benedict is that it is not your traditional version of what an attractive man should be. But perhaps that shows you that we must shake the paradigm of what we consider to be sexy men, that we can allow for some time for a Benedict Cumberbatch to enter the scene. There's a new paradigm now. It's true.
Only because he had these comments about men.
The otters who like Tumblr was great.
Clean rebellion aspect, or this
hey, thanks,
L childish
Cheeky20.
position of not all men are bad and blah blah blah. And it's like, no, we just have to shut up and listen. We need to fix the behaviour of men, and to understand that you have to kind of lift the lid of the engine a little bit.
You heard it from Sherlock Holmes and the voice of Smaug himself. We just need to fix the behavior of men. And it's really interesting because something I've noticed is that when we talk about societal,
what the fuck is controversial about that? It's like, yeah, I mean, we can all be better. It's not even that like spicy a take.
Problems. Yeah. There are only certain groups that you're allowed to blame for those problems. Those groups being straight people, men, white people, and Christians. For example, take the pay gap. That's supposedly a problem that affects women, and it's not actually a real thing, as most of us know about.
What's the implication there? Whereas I really want to blame people like black people, Jews, and it's just not a time when I'm allowed to do that. Apparently, it's just white people. That's it.
by now, but whatever. Let's just say, for argument's sake, that it's real. Because women are the victims in that situation, it's men's fault. But then Benedict Cumberbatch also brings up the issue of mental health, and when it comes to things like self-medicating via addiction or suicide, then men disproportionately are the victims that suffer from poor mental health.
It's true.
But here, even though the victims are men, guess what? The problem is also men. So essentially, according to people like Benedict Cumberbatch, women attacked, men at fault, men attacked, men still at fault. And this is very different than the type of
No, every time we go through one of these videos and as a concept, especially related to sociology, she has such a hard time grasping it. She always straw mans one side of it and then just like can't wrap her head around the larger picture. Like,
God, those communists are amazing.
Avan_of_Babylon got a tier 1 subscription.
Avion of Babylon, thank you for the tier 1 subscription. I appreciate it. It's almost as if, you know, having a patriarchal structure harms both men and women. You know, it's kind of like these versions of what masculinity has to be are unhealthy. They're not healthy. I mean, a lot of it is based on like what exactly is the worth of a man and where does the worth of a man start. And when you attach that to capitalism, when you attach it that the success in your life is based on your ability to get a good job, a high paying job, then you will be respected by your peers. You will have all the like consumer goalposts that you're supposed to achieve. So all of a sudden it's like, I've bought myself a car, bought myself a house, now I'm going to have myself a vacation home, then I'm going to find myself my trad wife. After I get my trad wife, I of course will inseminate her because that is what a man is supposed to do, and that is what a woman is supposed to receive, at which point she will give birth to 2.5 children. Ideally they will be boys, so I have strong heirs, and then cycle repeat. And then we do it again, and then we do it again. Like, that whole cycle seems to produce some pretty fucked up results and probably unplanned ones. So that's kind of the idea, is shaking that paradigm.
Rhetoric you would see surrounding, for example, inner city crime. In those cases, it's not actually the fault of the person who's committing the crime, it's the fault of everyone else, kind of like a look what you made me do type of situation. I just find it very hypocritical when and where our society decides to actually accept the idea of responsibility versus pass that off to someone else. And although many of you, like myself, might find Benedict Cumberbatch's words concerning and frankly kind of sexist, the truth is his thoughts are frankly very commonplace in today's society, and I would say they're actually the dominant attitude toward men and masculinity that exists among the left. Bad, but look, I just call him like I see him, okay? But yeah, here we have an example of the left trying to call Gosar undeservedly, but whatever. One straight out of the authoritarian playbook. So the first thing I want to say there is that to equate anime with masculinity in any way, shape, or form, that's a new one. And I know anime fans are gonna get mad at me for saying that, but look, I just call him like I see him, okay? But yeah, here we have
Damn, weebs, y'all got called out. I know a lot of y'all are weebs too. Oh no, Lauren's coming for you. Coming for all you weebs. All you weebs want to be masculine, you fools. You fools! It cannot happen. It cannot happen, no. It is scientifically impossible. Every single one of you. Just got wrecked. Just calling him as I see him.
An example of the left trying to call Gosar undeservedly, but whatever, misogynistic and murderous and authoritarian, and for some reason, the word that they associate with all of those things is masculinity. They're essentially trying to morph masculinity into this negative trait, which is very strange because, I mean, when we think back historically to what masculinity means, it's usually used to describe good things, bravery, courage, leadership. It's really only in this modern context that masculinity is being used to describe all of these negative things.
And she's going to come close to this. She'll fly very close, but she'll never actually land the plane. It's almost as if we affix these attributes to what we think masculinity is supposed to be. So we're going to take a whole bunch of qualities that we like. There are positive ones that we historically have associated with being a man, right? Strength, bravery, courage, very good traits. Now, we also add some traits that some people don't think are as amazing, right? Such as stubbornness, such as, strength can also be a double-edged sword, such as never apologizing, never showing any kind of weakness, not being empathetic, not, having any emotions related to sadness, tears, don't have apathy as well, right? All of those things are still attributes that we're attributing to something that we're going to associate as a societal structure we call what is masculine. But you understand that this is a made-up thing. We're allowed to associate what we want with that aspect. Like, this is a really interesting question, not the one that Lauren's talking about, but that's been brought up to me, usually by people when I'm on a panel and they're discussing trans issues, is that, Lance, have you ever questioned whether or not you're cis based on the fact that you're constantly like, I wish these other traits or qualities were associated with what being a masculine or a man is, but you also seem to be very comfortable with being he, him, cis man, right? I was like, yeah, I am. And just because I've never felt unusual, I've never had what people describe as dysphoria, so that's why it's the biggest reason that I can say that I don't think I'm anything other than cis. But in terms of what we characterize as good masculinity, positive masculinity, if those words have lost all meaning now, because I guess the right has effectively weaponized them, so now it's like positive masculinity is like, oh, fine, whatever you want to call it, all right? Macho man. Well, yeah, we'll call it macho man. The ideal macho man can encompass things that were traditionally supposed to be feminine as well. Such as being empathetic, such as showing sympathy for someone else, because I think those can be beautiful things. Being very emotional, I think that is an important thing. I think, you know, when you talk about the things that concern men, very high rates of suicide, really high rates of addiction, it would go so far if men were a lot more comfortable speaking to other men or even their partners or women or it doesn't matter who, about their emotions and actually exploring their own emotions. And I don't mean this has to be like, then you got to sit down and have the cuddle puddle and everybody gets in there and then they all talk about their fifis and then it's all, no. But I mean, if something is genuinely hurting you, I can't tell you how many friends you just can't get it out of them. You can tell they're in a lot of pain, but just years of reinforced, like, I'm not supposed to open up, you know, I'm just gonna fucking get that shield on at all times. Nah, sorry, I can't talk about it. Or if they finally do, it's like, yeah, it's kind of fucked up that my dad's dying. It really sucks. And that's about it. And you'll never get anything further than that conversation. Like that's as far as you're ever going to go with that friend, right? It's like, that really fucking sucks. And that's something that is ingrained within this idea of what a man is supposed to be within these traditional bounds of masculinity. So it would be very beneficial if men were able to talk about that kind of shit. Men would feel comfortable talking to their other male friends about that kind of stuff. To just say, I love you, you know? You're a good person and I love you. Tell people that more often. It's a wonderful thing. And hey, I just noticed Bothered Boy's here. Go check out Bothered Boy's channel. Just hit the 3K mark. Very good to see ya.
It's funny because even though to anyone paying attention, it's pretty obvious that yes, the left is trying to do this. It's trying to undermine the concept of masculinity. Not only do they try to associate masculinity with negative traits, but they also simultaneously try to uplift men who don't display any masculinity. I mean, just think of the stereotypical male feminist archetype that publications like Salon.
So would you just say the answer to sexual abuse, physical abuse disproportionately from men is the reinstatement of traditional values because those things are not made up by the left? Would I state that they are just the reinstatement of traditional values? I think you were mentioning or talking about like a handful of things that are very, very complicated, multifaceted. Like, what exactly is the cause of someone who commits physical abuse, and how do the cycles of physical abuse perpetuate themselves? There's certainly a role to be said or played within, the frameworks of what is toxic masculinity and how does that affect people and their behavior. That is certainly an element, but that in and of itself, for a topic like that vast, can't even begin to like scratch the surface of it. So it's something that would be way more difficult to just be like physical abuse we can associate just with negative male stereotypes or something like that, right? I started therapy, I hated most of my life, ended up in chair, turned on the perspective. I said she would say that, not you. Oh, okay, got it.
And Jezebel wish all men would be. They're docile, they're physically weak, they're submissive to women. It seems like the only time that leftists do compliment men.
All leftists are docile, physically weak. Every single leftist. Just like, oh, hello, can you step on my face, mommy? Ooh, woo. I'm a lefty. Whoa, I'm Antifa. Step on my face with that boot.
And it's when there is nothing actually masculine about them. And it's funny because as obvious as that is to literally anyone who's paying attention, anytime a conservative does call out the left's attack on masculinity.
See, this is the problem though, because if you're just making up these cartoonish stereotypes, you're not actually going to help anyone. You're just basically pandering to your base and getting people who are watching you to say like, oh yeah, no, I don't want to be that. That sounds like pussy shit. I'm not a pussy, bro. No, I'm not. The left are fucking pussies. Every single one of them. Yeah, no, we're men. This is alpha shit. Or sorry, alpha's passe. This is sigma shit. We're the sigmas.
Masculinity, they like to gaslight and act all offended as if, what are you talking about? We're not anti-male. Recently, for Men's Mental Health Month, Senator Josh Hawley, who I am a fan of, made several different comments about the left's attack on men and masculinity. And here's one example of Senator Hawley saying things that I think are like objectively true, but that still very much anger the left because they don't like to be called out on their attempts to subvert things. They would rather do it sneakily.
Well, a man is a father, a man is a husband, a man is somebody who takes responsibility. As conservatives, we've got to call men back to responsibility. We've got to say that spending the time time
fucking man.
not working, and we have more and more men who are not working, spending your time on video games, spending your time watching porn online while doing nothing is not good for you, your family, or this country.
So viewers watching.
To each one of these, like, you know, Christian Puritans who are always going off about the pornos, like, do they think there is just entire generations of people who are perpetually cooming, like 24/7? Like, where do they think they find the time? It's like, oh, if they could only stop cooming for just 1 minute, they might be able to accomplish something in their lives. But alas, just with access to pornography and the internet, people just coom 24/7. No one can stop themselves. It's really a problem.
In this, and they're thinking, really, what the liberals are doing are going to push me to watch Pornhub more or play Donkey Kong more? Do you mean that literally?
Donkey Kong?
Well, what I mean
No,
literally
wait,
is
did you
that
just say Donkey Kong? I think I misheard that. Please tell me it's not true.
is not good for you, your family, or this country.
So viewers watching this, and they're thinking, really, what the liberals are doing are going to push me to watch Pornhub more or play Donkey Kong
He
more?
did say
Do you
Donkey
mean that?
Kong. Oh, yo, video game donkey, where you at? Where you at? You're getting a shout out on fucking HBO. Video game donkey just got shouted out on HBO. Holy shit. Donkey Kong. Now I wonder if that was a slip of the tongue or if he genuinely thinks it's called Donkey Kong. I don't know. I mean, I don't play Mirio and all those other games.
Literally?
Well, what I mean literally is that I think the liberal attack, the left-wing attack
Yes.
on manhood says to men, you're part of the problem. It says that your masculinity is inherently problematic.
I think Holly is exactly right there. And if you're watching that clip and you're thinking, hey,
No, fuck, how do you all get this so wrong? It's so fucked up. Like, when you talk about different fields of sociology and what they do, and they're usually about a reflection. They study how exactly society works, and then they will reflect that back to you to be able to explain certain things. And so, like, you know, just take the case of CRT and how it talks about there's different levels of power, and how there are certain groups that will have more institutional privilege based on factors. Like, that's all it's saying. It's just reflecting upon the world. And in the case of this, it's also reflecting that there are certain traits that we feel that if you associate with what society deems to be the right kind of masculine man, the right kind of big machismo, strong-ass masculine man, that these can actually have negative effects, especially to society as a broader whole. Not that you are bad or you are a bad thing as a man. Like, I think they're all stuck in Catholic mentality or something. You are sin, and you are sin because you are white and cis and man, and those are the worst things, so saith the left. The left despise the cis, the man, fucking the white, everything. That is what the left despises. That's like, no, that's garbage. If anything, I love masculinity. I want to make it better, all right? I want to make the most beautiful, pristine version of masculinity that can encompass many different things, not just one set of rigid traits. You just want to get everyone boxed into this one little pigeonhole. There are days when you want to just be like that strong alpha person, and then there are days when you want to be more empathetic and then soft and listen, and you want to listen to poetry and music and dance. But you can have it all. That's what I say. Have it all. I want you to have more. I want all of you to have more.
hang on, that seems like more of an attack on men than a way to praise masculinity. I do have an excerpt of a longer speech that he gave that I think better puts into context what he's trying to say. As one article explained, quote, the left want to define traditional masculinity as toxic. They want to define the traditional masculine virtues, things like courage and independence and assertiveness, as a danger to society, Hawley said. America's men are withering as a result, Hawley explained. The senator cited a recent Wall Street Journal article that reported men are—
Yeah, I totally believe you said this. It's Josh fucking Hawley. Why do you need like a source, the Washington Post? Hey, I'm on the level here, okay? This is just facts. This is science being stated. Look, no, you're reading out a Josh Hawley quote. Yeah, this is his viewpoint.
Are abandoning higher education in record numbers and lagging behind women. One expert said that if current trends continue, 2 women will earn a college degree for every man within the next few years. Can we be surprised that after years of being told they're the problem, that their manhood is the problem, more and more men are withdrawing into the enclave of idleness and pornography and video games, the senator remarked? Hawley called for conservatives to fight
Oh shit, gamers are getting thrown under the bus too now. Fucking gamers. No, they came for the gamers. So, okay, sorry, I was wrong, all right? It seems the majority of men aren't spending all day cooming. They take breaks every now and then to play a video game or two, and then they go back to the cooming. So it's mostly cooming. It's mostly cooming, Pornhub, you know, all that kind of shit. But then they take a break, maybe probably to have a sip of water. They may be a little parched, and then they continue, you know? So saith Josh Hawley.
attack on men and push for a revival of strong and healthy manhood in America. We need men to raise up sons and daughters after them, to pass on the great truths of our culture and history, to defend liberty, to share in the work of self-government, he said. We need the kind of men who make republics possible, and it's not too much to say that our ability to get that kind of men will determine the success of our long experiment in liberty. One of the reasons why I think Hawley's explanation of masculinity and manhood is so important is because it paints leadership and stewardship not just as telling people what to do or dominance, but actually as
Dominant.
more of a stewardship role. Because I think when the left hears and talks about things like hierarchies and leadership, they assume there must be some sort of bullying, coercion, or exploitation involved. That if you are at the top of the pyramid, it's because you're kind of forcing everyone else to follow you and you're like a dictator who's lording your power over them. But that's actually a very different interpretation than at least the biblical and I would say historical traditional message of what masculinity is about. If you are a leader, then you actually have more responsibility to the people who follow you. You're not simply there to bully other people and have them do whatever you want for them.
Like, do you really want to play that game? Do you want to go to ye old times and start talking about the fucking Bible? I mean, you're supposed to, if your kids are being disobedient in the Bible, stone them to death, like murder them, murder the disobedient kids. I don't want that trait being associated with being a man. You know, if a child hath wronged you, be sure to stone him across the head. Like, what the fuck? No, no, you belong in prison. All of you belong in prison. That's wild. No, don't say those things out loud, please.
You actually are in service to the people who are following you, which is a totally different mentality. And if you ask me, that type of attitude is exactly what makes masculinity such an attractive quality in a mate. And I say that as a woman. When women, especially more traditional or Christian women, talk about wanting like a strong male figure to be their husband or to be the father for their children, they're not saying that they just want someone to boss everyone else around and to dominate them. They're saying they want someone to show genuine leadership and responsibility, to actually care for his family and take the role of protecting.
Yeah, but the whole point is that, like, these are not bad things. No one is saying that. I don't know of a single leftist who's ever been like, well, you know, we really want to get rid of things like courage, responsibility. Those are just toxic masculine traits that we have to eliminate immediately. No. Let's get rid of those and we'll replace them with femininity, anime, and uwu. Okay, maybe some cat ears. Let's not forget the cat ears. Okay, and maybe a little bit of that femboy stuff. You know, just to sprinkle it on. That's a true man.
Them and leading them, nurturing them, doing all of those positive things. And actually, I would say that one of the biggest beneficiaries of positive masculinity is women. But if you ask the people at Salon, actually what Josh Hawley is talking about is just straight up sexism and like him wanting to return to the 50s. As this article explains, sorry Josh Hawley, the left doesn't hate masculinity, women just don't want to make you a sandwich. So to be clear, Josh Hawley gave an entire speech about what he thinks men's responsibilities and duties are to society and the family, and in Salon's messed up feminist brain, that translated into, you have to do something for me, woman. Like, are you serious? He's talking about men stepping up to the plate, but feminists can't help but see that as a way to tell women to GTFO back to the kitchen. But anyway, this author writes, as
he wasn't just talking about that, he was also talking about how he feels that men are just these cooming machines who, if they see porn once, they can't stop cooming, and all they do is play video games and coom. Like, I've heard that so many times from conservatives. The problem with like modern kids today is that every single one of them is just cooming and playing video games. We can't have them stop. What did we do? We created a whole generation of coomers against our will.
As usual with these reactionary defenses of masculinity, what Hawley is trying to say is left deliberately ambiguous. It's only ambiguous for people with a 4th grade reading comprehension. I mean, which to be fair is probably the majority of people on the internet, but still. They continue, as Paul Waldman of the Washington Post recently pointed out, for instance, assertiveness can mean all sorts of things, as Harvey Weinstein was certainly an assertive man, but so is Senator Bernie Sanders. Okay, first of all, Bernie Sanders is not an assertive man, okay? I think we saw that when he absolutely rolled over after being screwed over by the DNC to still endorse Hillary Clinton. But again, here we see the left conflating values like assertiveness with coercion, but they are intrinsically different. When you threaten to blackmail someone for sexual favors, lest they be blacklisted from Hollywood, that's not just being assertive, that is being straight up abusive. And to try and act as if perhaps Senator Hawley was condoning that type of behavior is disgusting and just a perfect example of what bad faith looks like. The article goes on to explain it's also worth noting that these masculine qualities are hardly exclusive to men. It's doubtful that even Hawley is a troll enough.
Okay. I don't see where you're coming to bat for Josh Hawley. Is that the whole point of this? I thought we were talking about masculinity. You've made this whole thing about Josh Hawley. This is kind of unusual, but sure.
Average men and women display different personality types. Jordan Peterson talks a lot about this. Men are more likely to be dominant and assertive, and women, for better or worse, are more likely to be agreeable and to have higher levels of neuroses. By shaming men for exhibiting the
it just sucks that you have to get your information from people like that, and then all of a sudden, like, just consider it to be canon, and all of a sudden I got to spread that to other people, get them to know the truth.
Traits that they naturally gravitate toward, you are doing damage to men's mental health, whether you want to acknowledge it or not. And speaking of the idea that, yeah, women can be masculine too, one of the few times that the left actually praises masculinity, it seems, is when it's not being exhibited by men. And if you think I'm exaggerating or being hyperbolic, I'm not. There's a literal guardian.
No. Oh my God. It's, yeah, they're all so disingenuous. Like, that's the second part of the puzzle, is that to be what you can qualify as to be a positive feminine characteristics doesn't just have to be subservient, docile, whimsical, physically beautiful. Like there can be other traits as well, you know, like intelligence, for example, the one that's often not associated.
An article dedicated entirely to this. It's titled "What Toxic Men Can Learn from Masculine Women." The author explains that toxic masculinity is now a buzzword and a term most of us will recognize. It describes a set of predatory, bullish, and bullying, sexually aggressive, sexist, and homophobic behaviors in some heterosexual men. Now, I definitely don't want to say that those attributes are not negative, because they are, but what makes me so frustrated is that those are attributes that are by no means exclusive to men, or I would even say predominant among men, especially when we look at the concept of bullish and bullying behaviors. I mean, let's look at...
Yeah. But you see, you almost get it for something like that, right? Where you're like, I just don't see why those should be associated with this group. And then that's kind of like the point. That's what the left is actually saying. Like, why do you have to associate certain things? And why do you have to say this is the only ideal version? Like, why does masculinity have to be a one size fits all? Why does it have to be a monolith? Why is masculinity exclusively going to be like this? Like, I'm sorry, but not every person is born as this like Greek Chad Adonis that is just looking to breed women and infertilize them and be really good at his job and play golf and have the house and all that kind of shit. Like, there's going to be so many variations of humanity. So why not allow there to be a more broader, acceptable version of masculinity? Why does it only have to be this one paradigm? Why can't the cat boy also be masculine in his own way, you know?
The entire social justice movement, which is headed up largely by women. They're some of the biggest bullies in society nowadays. For people who are...
You hear that? Women be bullying. We got that part. Ladies, why you always bullying? You know? And you're teaching us men to bully too. We're taking this feminine trait and then we're suddenly becoming slightly more feminine, which is unusual because it's not supposed to happen in the masculine paradigm, but yet I can't help myself online, and now I find myself suddenly inhibiting and exhibiting, and oh my, it's a confusing world out there. This internet, I tell you, God damn, ladies. This is all about cock and ball torture, ultimately.
This will come down to who can deliver the lower propensity and mid propensity voters.
To our gods, Xander Corvus and Peyton L. Just, we will build a ladder to heaven to deliver you the daily news. To our monarch, Tom Spiker, we are your most humble of clownish jesters. To our lords, Trevor R. and Alexander Thaler, you have our undying fealty. To our knights of the round table, Nate, that one guy, Hagbird Celine, Matthew Scarborough, Stellar Vision, Ariana McCarthy, Daniel Sutton, Ants Are Still Running the World, Coulter Smith, Tom Groh, Val 9000, Jenna Tal, Quiet 185, Anna Loves Riley, Riley and Anna, Omni, Poodlehawk, The Tim Caucus, Multimondi, Trevor Janis, Lemmy 101, Anthropophojack, Saren 42, Chronic to Hemphog, Catherine, Radical Maniac, Ramon Acosta, Incosin, Violent Orchard, Sophie Baby, Political Puppy, Andreas Chiringuito, Zach Christensen, Josh Mickelson, Todd Buckingham, and Todd Lajeunesse. We shall meet you in the tavern, and we raise a drink, and we salute you.